Hello everyone, it's me again. I'm here with another video. Today's video will be, what if Killer Croc was in the Dark Knight trilogy? I do think it's theoretically possible that Killer Croc could have been the trilogy, because, fun fact, there are actually theories that he actually existed in the Nolanverse, because there was a prisoner in the Dark Knight, and he seemed, I'm not going to say strange, how do I put this? He just seemed and acted familiar to a lot of DC fans, and it made them believe that, this was actually Killer Croc. But he's just, Waylon Jones. He never becomes the crocodile mutated villain he is in the comics. Mainly due to the grounded, realistic tone of the Nolan films that would make it impossible. Also, to add the weight further, it's all because he was in the Joker novelization, like the Joker novelization that was coming out during that point in time. The Dark Knight was coming out, and Joker in that comic was actually similar to the Nolanverse version of the Joker. So it was further evidence because Killer Croc was like, the same as that version of the comic. So how do we factor Killer Croc into the Nolanverse properly? The first movie, Batman Begins. This was tricky, but here's what I think. I don't think a lot of the movie would change very much, but a fun fact is, in the Joker comic, he was once the owner of a butcher shop. So maybe he's kind of like Mr. Meat. Well, not exactly like Mr. Meat, but he owns a butcher shop. And, he kills, animals for meat. And so that's how he formed the butcher shop in the first place, maybe? But he ends up kidnapping people because somehow he was eating raw meat and loved it a lot. And he likely killed those people as well, thus making him a serial killer. And so Batman had to deal with, Waylon Jones, and then threw him in prison. He might even have crocodile tattoos on him. And so he might become fascinated with, dead crocodiles, because I would say he was bullied for liking reptiles, and so he often preferred to watch the birds feed off the carcasses of all dead animals whenever he's lonely at school. Then you move on to The Dark Knight, which nothing changes in that movie. A single thing doesn't change, but then we move on to The Dark Knight Rises, where he would likely face his own transformation. I would say Scarecrow would hold him hostage, and not only does Scarecrow, give him fear toxin of, him getting eaten alive by crocodiles and all the dead animals, but he is also mutated to a crocodile thanks to, I would probably say, Professor Hugo Strange. No, Dr. Hugo Strange. He's not really a professor. He's, of course, turned to a crocodile and starts, a rampage on Gotham. And yes, Ty Lister Jr. would play Killer Croc since he was the actor of that criminal in The Dark Knight. He would probably be defeated before the final battle. If not, he probably would still be out there, would become a villain that John Blake fights. But we never see that fight for obvious reasons. So that's why Killer Croc was in the Dark Knight trilogy. Yeah, I will admit, Killer Croc, is one of those villains that doesn't really affect the trilogy very much. I will say that. But do I think he should have been in these films? I guess. With Deadshot, Firefly, I could. And even Deathstroke, I totally could have seen them in these films, but Killer Croc. Kind of, but the fact that he's a crocodile, mutated monster, would kind of clash with the realistic elements. But who knows, really? But anyways, I will see you all later.